You might want to strap in, because BlackRock and VanEck, two of the biggest names in finance, have finally woken up and they're going all in on Bitcoin. That's right, the same guys who spent years laughing at us, well now they're throwing their chips on the table. And what's more, the largest bank in the US is calling for 300K Bitcoin. And they're about to offer Bitcoin to their clients like it's the new gold standard. Oh wait, it is the new gold standard. Massive money printing and a confirmed recession. It's all the recipe for one thing: Bitcoin rocket fuel.
Tackling fuel.
And if that wasn't enough to grab you by the throat, well, BlackRock thinks VanEck's 350K Bitcoin prediction is a little bit bearish. Yeah, you heard me. You're gonna want to stick around for this, because you maniacs might have bullied BlackRock and Coinbase into submission. I'm Rustin, head of news at Simply Bitcoin, and we got some massively bullish developments to get to. Send it!
About a year ago, I started pounding the table because eventually the Fed is going to start easing here. That's great for gold and that's for Bitcoin. What I said is Bitcoin is growing up and will be eventually half the total market cap of gold. So that's about 350,000. So quite a ways to go from here. The super bulls, if central banks adopt it and it's part of the monetary system, then in the millions, but I don't like to talk about that too much.
What, more than 2 million? More than 3?
Yeah, like 2.9, we've got some model, which is, you have to look at the assumptions.
Right, well, yeah, there are always big ifs there. Where are you as an ETF guy with all kinds of different ETFs, everything from fixed income to, who knows, staples, consumer cyclicals, et cetera.
Yeah.
Where do you put your personal money right now?
I like longer term trends because I feel like, okay, it'll be a bumpy ride, but I like to have conviction about something that's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. To me, there's no doubt that Bitcoin is becoming adopted the way gold is. I just think it's obvious. Now, I think you have to have your own diversified portfolio, and kind of having a huge overweight to Bitcoin is a personal decision, but I just see that rising.
All right, now let's talk about VanEck. Their CEO gets on stage and says, well, Bitcoin's growing up and will eventually hit half the market cap of gold, around 350K. Probably nothing. But okay, great. Thanks for the lukewarm optimism. But here's the thing. Like Bob Burnett says, he isn't bullish enough. You think 350K is the top? You gotta get with the times. BlackRock, the kingpin of Wall Street, would probably laugh that number out of the room. You wanna know what BlackRock is thinking? They're not aiming at 350K. They're saying Bitcoin could replace gold altogether, and we'll get to that more later. Let's get started by catching up on all the craziness that went down this past week. First up, the Fed. Those economic wizards, well, they cut interest rates by 50 basis points. Because when your economy's a flaming dumpster fire, why not throw some gasoline on it? Meanwhile, our buddy GigaChad Michael Saylor raised another $1 billion to buy more Bitcoin. Surprise! The man's not stopping. He's gobbling up Bitcoin like a whale at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Oh, and get this! BNY Mellon, the largest custodial bank in the United States, just got approved to hold Bitcoin. The very institutions that laughed at us Bitcoiners are now lining up to be the babysitter of your Bitcoin. Ain't that cute? Now here's the real kicker. The SEC, who used to act like, Bitcoin was some shady backroom deal, well, they just approved options for BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. That's right, BlackRock. The same people who've been playing both sides of every financial game now have the green light to dive headfirst into Bitcoin. How's that for a twist?
What a twist!
You thought 2023 was crazy? We haven't even scratched the surface of what's coming next. Now, speaking of what's next, let's talk recession, because it's officially on the way. Multiple sources, including Simply Bitcoin, are saying we've got a 100% chance of hitting a recession in the next 12 months. 100%. That is not a forecast. That sounds like a damn promise.
I don't, as I look, well, let me look at it this way. I don't see anything in the economy right now that suggests that the likelihood of a downturn is elevated. Okay, I don't see that. You see growth at a solid rate. You see inflation coming down, and you see a labor market that's still at very solid levels. So I don't really see that. No, thank you.
You guys know what happens when the Fed starts slashing rates and printing money like they're handing out Halloween candy? The dollar crumbles, but Bitcoin soars. Jerome Powell, the guy running the money printer, even admitted there's a shock coming that could tank the economy. Hell, the US debt spiral alone is enough to push anyone toward Bitcoin. And guess what? There's no president or politician that can stop it. They've even been pretty much complicit in the whole fiat Ponzi scheme. So, yeah. Listen to Nat.
Most consumers express concerns about the potential collapse of a major cryptocurrency by 2026. Does that have ripple effects in the market?
I would be more concerned about a collapse within the bond market or our current fiat system, because we live in a system that's built on credit, and our money in the bank is not our money, it's an IOU and someone's liability. And deflation is not compatible with that system, right? It would collapse. And the Fed is trying to do everything it can to tighten, but it doesn't want deflation because we need it to stay solvent. That's what Bitcoiners are really worried about, because we're built on a system of theft at the base layer, inflation. And we celebrate that inflation has come down, but that just means we're celebrating the fact that Americans are paying ridiculously higher prices for everything, and the rate of it getting more expensive is just slowing down and maybe getting back to 2%. But why do we need 2% of our purchasing power to be stolen every single year? I mean, this is really what Bitcoin is about. We want technological progress and productivity to flow to people. We want hard money again. We don't want a system just based on credit. And I want to invest in something that can't just be printed out of thin air and devalued.
All right, now I want you guys to take a look at this. U.S. government debt visualized. And let's go ahead and look at how it went parabolic throughout history. And let's scroll down here so you can see the dates. And I just want to go through and react to this. We'll go through some of the history involved as well. So let's go. Very interesting, very stable, as we can see, very flat. Little, if any, this would be gold standard time. War of 1812. We get a little surge. I wonder why. Oh, you guys know what happened there. Andrew Jackson. That was the man who destroyed the debt. What a Chad. He fought against the central bank. Trail of Tears was pretty bad. Let's go ahead and look at this right here. Debt reached almost zero under President Andrew Jackson, who sold land and vetoed spending bills. He was against national debt, viewing it as a moral failing and economically harmful. What a Chad. But, there weren't many old hickories throughout history. And as we can see here, we're going to approach shooting up pre-Civil War time. And now, boom, we hit the Civil War, massive debt, money printing, coming out of it, reconstruction, debt falling massively. We're getting to the turn of the century. We know what comes in 1912, 1913. Here we go. Are we ready for this? Ready? 1912 Federal Reserve. And away we go. This is insane. There was World War I. Depression hits, boom, the New Deal. World War II, then we enter Cold War, Vietnam, everything else. There's just been no turning back. And remember what happened in 1971. When is it gonna stop? It doesn't, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't. We know it's at like 35 trillion right now. And if you watched our episode last week, they're expected to add another 20 trillion in the next decade. So we're looking at $55, $60 trillion debt in just the next 10 years. So there is no stopping this train. Just look at that. Thank you, Andrew Jackson, for demonstrating just how regarded every other president in history has been. All right, now let's get back to business, because we have VanEck in the beginning saying we're going to like 350K, but we have evidence from BlackRock saying they're bearish and we're going to completely replace gold. Larry Fink sounds a lot like Michael Saylor. What's the news? What will Bitcoin's price be when we flip gold? And now are also Bitcoiners bullying the largest institutions and governments into submission? You bet your ass. But before we bring it home, look at our likes.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Help us pay the bills and spread the sound money gospel. Give us a like and subscribe while we take a moment to recognize our sponsors, the Bitcoin Way. Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way. They bring over 25 years of cybersecurity experience. They are your IT team in the Bitcoin world. They help bridge that gap from the why Bitcoin to the how Bitcoin. And as your dedicated Bitcoin IT team, the Bitcoin Way is here to guide you from start to finish on your journey to properly self-custody your Bitcoin. From your first wallet node to advanced multi-sig security, inheritance planning, and much more, the Bitcoin Way has got you covered. And if you're looking to get started, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation using that link below. Now we're bringing it home. The BlackRock bombshell, well, they put out a report that basically says, hey, adoption is about to skyrocket thanks to global instability and the U.S. government's complete inability to manage anything. But that is not the kicker. When Bitcoin flips gold, we're looking at a Bitcoin price of around $912,000 $84. And how do we know BlackRock knows Bitcoin is gonna replace gold? Beyond just looking into some of Larry Fink's words, what about this? This is a deep cut, and shout out to Mike Hobart for first breaking this story. BlackRock just said there's no second best and could be on pace to be the largest hodler of Bitcoin, and by a very large margin. The mother of all supply squeezes is coming. The flight to quality and the hash war are also accelerating. Yeah, you heard all that right. Nearly $1 million for Bitcoin, and VanEck thinks 350K is bullish. Please, that's like saying you're excited about driving 55 in a Ferrari. Now let's go back to our boy GigaChad. Apparently he just made the biggest Bitcoin buy yet in USD value. He's stacking sats like there's no tomorrow, and guess what? He's not alone. Standard Chartered head of digital assets Jeff Kendrick just said Bitcoin will hit 200K no matter who wins the election. He basically said it doesn't matter if it's Trump, Harris, or a frickin' ham sandwich. Bitcoin's going to 200K. That's not hope, that's inevitability. It's wild. I'm starting to see a correlation here. Is everyone beginning to realize that Bitcoin is like designed to go up forever?
That's $100 to $200 trillion addressable market. So I would think it goes from 10 trillion to 100 trillion as people start to think of it as digital property.
What does that mean in terms of price per coin?
At 500,000, right? That's a $10 trillion asset. At 5 million, that's a $100 trillion asset.
So you think it crosses 1 million, it can go even higher?
Yeah, I think it keeps going up forever. I mean, there's no reason it couldn't go to 10 million a coin, right? Because digital property isn't the highest form, right? Gold was that low frequency money. Property is a mid frequency money, but when I start to program it faster, it starts to look like digital energy. Then it doesn't just replace property. Then you're starting to replace bonds. Right? It's 100 trillion in bonds. There's 50 to 100 trillion in other currency derivatives. And these are all conventional use cases, right? I think that there's $350 trillion to $500 trillion worth of currency derivatives in the world. And when I say that, I mean things that are valued based upon fiat cash flows. Any commercial real estate, any bond, any sovereign debt, any currency itself, any derivatives to those things, they're all derivatives, and they're all defective. And they're all defective because of this persistent 7 to 14% lapse, which we call inflation.
Now let's talk about us, the Bitcoiners. We've reached a point where we've bullied the largest financial institutions and governments into submission. Coinbase, BlackRock, they're finally bending the knee. It's not perfect, but it's somewhere. We used to be the rebels in the basement. Now we're dictating the future. You see, when Bitcoin flips gold, it's game over for fiat. The whole thing collapses, and Bitcoiners are left standing. Hey yo, would you looky there? They've amended their custody agreement to require 12-hour withdrawals amid debt rumors. Don't believe me that you bullied them into submission? Bingo! Look at this. Absolutely insane. It only took a few days too. Zero Hedge dropped that tweet and then we all went after it, and look what happened. It's not an if, but when Bitcoin flips gold, we're going to be talking about 900K Bitcoin. Max Keiser said it best, and in 2013, all that money printing that they've done has flowed into the only non-manipulated currency in the world, Bitcoin. He was right then, he's right now.
Boy, it feels great to be a Bitcoin millionaire. Bitcoin has absolutely triumphed as the dollar has crashed 90% against Bitcoin, as Bitcoin is set to take on the world and root out the banksters, as we sorely need. We sorely need it, Stacey.
I want to turn to this headline, Max. The target value for Bitcoin is not some $50 or $100. It is $100,000 to $1 million.
Yeah, well, the Dow Jones has hit a new all-time low against Bitcoin, and the paper millionaires and the paper billionaires are really highly suspect because they're part of a manipulated world, of manipulated Fed policy, manipulated bond markets. They manipulate the price of gold and silver. But all that money printing that they've done has flowed into the only non-manipulated currency in the world, and that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the true inflation rate, Paul Krugman. Bitcoin is the true inflation rate, Ben Bernanke. And once again, I got to tell you, it feels great to be a Bitcoin millionaire because there's anonymity, there's power. You're taking a stance against the paper pushers like Jamie Dimon over at JP Morgan. And this is really this is the currency of the resistance.
It looks like the rocket's on the launch pad. And if you're not on board, you're gonna get left behind. Like Wheezy said, when it comes to Bitcoin, no ceilings. So if you're still sitting on the sidelines, it's time to get in. Like, subscribe, give us a pap, and spread that sound money gospel. And hey, if Bitcoiners can push BlackRock to bend the knee, imagine what's coming next. You ain't bullish enough. I'll catch you next time. Steady lots. The holo waits. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.